Hi. Okay, the sound is working. I checked on my other computer. I'm going to be continuing where I left off, and I figured out exactly what I needed to do. Let me just catch anybody up who's new to what I'm making. Going over to the app file that I have. My goal is to make a Space Invaders app. Space Invaders is that retro game that you might recognize from the arcades. It has some aliens at the top. The aliens are firing down missiles and hitting these houses. And you, as the avatar, are able to fire back. Okay. So you earn more points as you defeat each of these aliens. Each of them have a different amount of hit points, and they each give you a different amount of points. What we've built out so far in this game includes a gallery for the buildings that you need to protect, the avatar or the sprite itself, your spaceship. We built in a WASD, what do you call it? Input. So you could type in WAS or D, and you'll be able to move your character around. So if I push D, it's going to move me to the right. If I push A, it moves me to the left, and so on. And we also built out a way of firing missiles. If I push spacebar, it'll shoot a missile, and so on. So I could fire a missile and it knows its position. Okay, I am going to save and reopen this app. It looks like it's running a little bit slow, and I think I'll close out some windows as well. I think that's slowing it down too. So we have a lot going on in this app. Let me close a few things. I was looking up some pictures. We'll just use what we can so far. Okay. I'm going to open up a tab with create.powerapps.com. I'll open up that MSApp file that I just saved. Okay, I'm ready to show you the ways that I fixed it. You're going to think, wow, you were so close. Let me start sharing my screen. Sorry, I didn't share my screen earlier. Okay, so I'm opening up the app. All right, I'm going to reload this. I'm opening up the app. Okay, file 10. All right, so the solution that I put in, let me set some monsters here. If I go into this gallery of invaders, you'll see that each of these is kind of offset by a little bit. The reason why they're not straight and lined up, as the number here suggests, is I have template padding of 5 pixels. If I set that template padding to 0, they're all lined up now. So they were being offset by about 5 pixels for each of the rows that they were representing. So now they're all in a grid, which means if I go into this data table is the one that's figuring out if I am in the correct location or not, if my sprite is in the correct location to fire a missile. If this is in the correct location, then I'll show you here. Creature out. Okay, you'll see that it starts populating with the correct column. So now I'm in column 3, so my sprite's in column 3. I'm in column 4, 5, and it should stop here at column 11. Okay. So I'm in the correct zone now. Earlier it was not working. Now, I also need to have my missile, if I shoot a missile, I want the missile to light up each of these toggles to detect collision. So I go to the default property of this toggle that's figuring out if I have a missile has collided or not. The problem here is it's detecting, is there a missile that is between the size of this invader? The problem is I wasn't compensating for the starting location of this gallery. This is the starting position of the invader relative to the gallery. So I actually have to add in the gallery as a starting point. Add the gallery as a starting point to those two. It's almost ready. Now I also need to compensate for the starting point of the gallery in the Y direction. So I put in gallery invaders here. Now here's the magical part. Once I have that all in, it will start detecting the missiles that are colliding at any given spot. So I'm going to shoot a missile here and just watch its position. Boom, look at those toggles line up. Okay. Boom. So I have the missiles, I have the collision detection. I need to stop the missile if it's collided with that first one. So it's off by a little bit. So I need the collision to detect when it's hitting it. Okay, so I go back to toggle collision, and let's do a few things. First, this missile. I only want it visible if this item, if its status is false. I only want it visible when its status is true, meaning the missile is good to go. Okay, because when this timer ends, this timer sets the missile to false, its status to false. Okay, so we only show this missile if it's currently firing. I'm going to use that. I'm going to go into the check property here. When this toggle turns on, I want it to match missile, the first one. The first of the missiles where, I'm going to go back to the property here. I'm going to take the first missile that qualifies here. Take the first one, and I'll edit it. One second, this is taking a while to, it's a big statement. So I'll take the first one and then I'll make it false. I'll let the other missiles continue because you could shoot multiple missiles. I take the first one and turn its status false. Okay, let me do some formatting. I'm looking at the first missile that's in this, that's correctly hitting something, and I bring it false. And I also want to detect, I want to make these invaders false. So I turn this invader, I turn its property so that, let's do two things. Patch the invaders, this item, update its status, false. That way the invader also disappears to show that it's been hit. And then I only want this invader to show up. So I go to the visible property. And this item is status is true. Let's test it out. I'm going to shoot a missile. Hit that first one. Let me hide the controls so you can see that the other parts of it were hit. Let's set the visible property to image invader visible. It'll take the same visible property. Okay, I'm going to continue. Oops. Boom. So the basic mechanic of this game of firing a missile, see if I hit, oh. Okay, so I got the first row working. Now I need to get the next rows. Okay. So going to my missiles, going to the collections of the missiles, let's see where they are. I'll insert a gallery to see, or a data table, to see how the missiles are doing. I'll set this equal to missiles. I will have the missile ID and the status. I'll fill this data table white. Okay, I'll play the app. Okay, all the missiles should be off now. Let me do another thing. I'll make this data table sorted so that I see the most recent missile at the top. I sort it by missile ID. Oops. And I sort it descending. Okay, if I fire a missile, there's the missile. It's disappearing very soon. So let's check how I can improve that. Okay. So the missile itself, it's starting at the bottom. It's traveling the entire length of this. Let me shoot that missile again to see if something else is stopping it. So it's still traveling here. Let me relayer these. I'm going to relayer this. I'll put the missiles. Missiles are above the invaders. Okay. Let's take a look at the collision. know what it is then. The reason why we're not able to hit the later missiles is it thinks that it disables that missile when it hits the very first one, when it hits the very first of these missiles. So I only want this to run if the missile, if this invader is currently alive. So I'll put a condition here. If this invader is still alive, then disable the missile. Okay. I could put that as a condition. Okay. 2 conditions here. One, this invader has to be still alive. Item dot status equals true. And so as long as this invader is still alive and there's a missile that's going to be able to hit it, it'll run. Okay, so I fire a missile and it should disable us one of the other ones. There we go. So I was able to hit the next row. Okay, I'm going to continue. So you can see it's a little bit off. We could fine tune it later. All right, we have the basic components. I'll go ahead and erase these data tables. We won't need these data tables. This one I might keep. I'll turn it off though. Okay. So I have the gist of the game. Let's go ahead and insert a score. I could keep score by adding up, by collecting the creatures that are hit. So I go to the collision, the on-check property of the collision. And this invader is hit. I can collect it, score this item. I'm collecting this creature, this thing that I hit to a collection called score. And then in this text box, I could sum all those creatures by their value, how many points they're worth. Okay, I'll play the app. The creatures who are closer to the bottom are worth 20. The third and fourth rows are worth 40. And that last row, I believe it's 10. Oh, 10, 20, and then the last one's 40. Okay, so let's see this working. I'm gonna aim for 10 points. Fire a missile, and get another 10. This next one gives me 20, so I should be at 40. Oh, no, not yet. This next one does. Okay, this should bring me to 50. Okay, so it's working. I hit another one. And then the last one should bring me to 110. All right, the game is working. I think from here, we can build in the enemies firing missiles back and defeating the houses. Go ahead and build that in. Save the progress so far. Okay. This is a good time if you... All right. So I have my score here. Let's revisit the things I want to do. I showed that it's hit in the Y direction. I have the animations for the missile. Let's have the Space Invaders send missiles back. I could do this with a timer. So in the original game, missiles are fired kind of randomly. I'll do the same thing here, maybe every 5 seconds. Every 5 seconds, when this timer ends, I'll collect the enemy missiles. The missiles from the invaders. Same kind of idea. Why don't I copy the exact same structure here? I go into my debug panel where I have my missiles that's fired. I'm going to copy the same thing, but it'll be for a different collection. Go to that timer. And I'll just erase this first line. Okay, so I'm collecting this missile for the invader. It has a missile ID. That's going to be the biggest missile in the invader collection. The starting point, okay, this one's going to be different. It's going to be a random number. I'm going to make it equal to some random distance of where the gallery of invaders is. So I take gallery invaders x plus gallery invaders width. Actually, I'll start it with .x. I want a random number, so I'm going to round this up, multiply rand times that, and multiply the maximum width. This width minus starting location. Oh, I know what I need to do. I want some number. I want this random number multiplying by the width, and then once I have that, then I add the minimum starting point. So what does this mean? Let's put some commenting code here. This means get a random number from 0 to the total width of the invaders. Okay? And add the base x position. Can you give me a random position of where the invaders currently are? Okay, have a start time and have their missiles start at true, so they're going to be firing. Okay, we should also account for. We should account for what if there's no aliens or no invaders who are in the 11th column? There's no invaders who are in the first column. Let's do a minimum. We'll account for that later, but let's put it on our to-do list. Make a missile for the invaders. Select the missile. Make the missiles only spawn for the columns where there are actually invaders. Okay, we'll do that requirement later. Okay, I'll save my progress. Okay, I'll keep my timer here. This timer for the invaders is going to repeat as long as there are invaders. So my condition, I'm going to put this condition inside my debug panel. Controls, toggle. I know I'm going to use this condition over and over. So I use a debug, I put a condition in this toggle so I can reference it in many places. If it is, as long as there are creatures, so as long as the collection of invaders, filter the invaders, and state it, and I look at the status, that is true. If I get all the invaders that are still alive and it's not empty, continue the game, continue sending missiles. Rename this toggle. Toggle. I will name this toggle is trying to make it descriptive. I don't like naming things. I want to describe it in a way that I understand. So it's the game is still going on, or there are still creatures. Are as invaders. Okay, there we go. It's the hardest thing that you'll see today. Okay, so as long as there are invaders, go. So I set its start property to that toggle. I set its repeat property to the same thing and the auto start. So it'll keep sending missiles as long as there are invaders. Okay, let's visualize the invaders. I'm going to copy this gallery of missiles. It's going to be the exact same thing, except the enemy missiles will be going in a different direction. Change its items property to the missiles of the invader. And the enemy missiles will have different properties. You'll see that the height property here is messed up. That's because I have a template size of 0, so it's squashing things to fit. Okay. So the Y property of this enemy missile, before it was going from the bottom of the missile gallery to the top, I'm going to start at the bottom of this enemy's gallery, the invaders gallery invaders, Y, the bottom part of it. I'm going to add its existing height. So it's going to start right here. Okay, so I start at right below there. Okay. I want it to put this in parentheses and give it some commenting code. Start at the bottom of invaders gallery. Okay. And add a certain amount. Okay, subtract the distance between the bottom edge of the screen and this location, whatever that is. So the parent height, oh, we'll call it the screen height. Screen 1.height. If I take the height of the screen and I subtract this amount, and I subtract this amount, okay. So this difference, this is the space right here. I want to subtract that amount as the timer is increasing. So I take the timer's value divided by the timer's total duration. Timer's value minus duration, okay. Let me hide this timer. And I'll hide the timer in the other gallery. Let me make sure it's working first. Okay. So I start at the bottom of the Invaders gallery, and I subtract this gap right here as the timer is counting. Okay, let's just make sure the animation is working. Check a few more things. Okay, this timer is good to go. Oh, when this timer is finished, I want to set the missile that's in the Invader gallery to false. Okay, so here's the timer that's counting. It'll send a missile down. Oops. I made this missile subtract this space. I actually want it to add this amount. Okay, now we have it going. So that's why you saw the missile fly upwards. There we go. The missile's flying downwards. Okay. All right. You'll notice that the missile's not going all the way through. Let's see how we can make it better. Okay, so start at the bottom of the gallery and multiply, add this space. Okay, we'll keep it at that for now then. Let's detect some collision for the buildings. All we've done with this gallery so far of buildings is just give it a certain amount of hit points. Because we want to detect collision just like we did before, we're going to use a very similar setup where we have a template size of 0. Rename a few things first. Image of the building. I'm going to make this label follow the image. So I set it to image building.x. And I set its y property to image building.y. Following along. Now I'm going to remember to turn the template size to template padding to 0, as well as the template size to 0. This building is going to have an x property. Okay, I'm going to do some math here. going to make it in the midpoint of where it should be. Okay, so take gallery of invaders, or gallery of buildings dot width. I take its total width divided by 4. That's how much space I normally have for the building. I'm going to have that much space for every ID number minus 1. In other words, it's giving this amount of width as the ID number counts up. Okay, now I want to make it in kind of like the midpoint area though. If I have that as a starting point, that's great. Okay, so start where the gallery normally would with a template size. Okay, now we're going to adjust. Add a certain amount. Add the difference between this thing, same thing, and this image width. I'm going to divide it by 2. Okay, so I have let me try that again. So I start here. And then, I know what it is. And then I add this thing minus building, divide that by 2. There we go. Okay, so I took whatever's normally, the width that I normally have, which is going to be gallery width, 1/4 of this whole thing, subtract the width of this image of the building, divided by 2, and that adjusts for the midpoint. So now these buildings are in the midpoints. If I make this image bigger, and I fill this image, it'll adapt for it. Okay, now I have the size of the image. Let's make the detection for it. I'm going to insert a toggle control. You'll see the toggle control gets messed up because you'll see the width has become 1. That's because we're in a template size of 0. Okay. Take this toggle, go with the building. Okay, that's a good spot. It's going to be detecting if there's a missile here. I'll go ahead and go to the gallery of the invaders for the other collision. Copy the same properties. I'll rename this toggle to toggle collide with the building. The on check property of this. If the building still has hit points, and disable missile. Okay. Let's put in some conditions. I'm going to go to the default property of the toggle, go to the building, and the toggle for that is in the condition. So the building doesn't have a status property, but it does have HP. HP is greater than 0. And you look into the gallery of missiles, _1, that's the one with the enemy missiles. If you look in those missiles and the missile's active and its position is equal to the starting position of this gallery of buildings. It's from Gallery Invaders, Gallery Building. If I add in the starting point of this building, I'm adapting this same formula the opposite direction. Okay, so the enemy missile has to be between the the highest X position right here, and the smallest X position and the largest X position. And I'm going to adapt for the height of the missiles gallery. In other words, how much it's traveling. Let's get the position of the missile. Okay, I'm going to have to copy this whole thing. Okay, so if there's a missile that is traveling and it's in this region, gallery dot image building. Oh, building. Image building. Okay, then it'll detect it. Let's change some of the on-check properties. I'm going to update the missiles in here. The buildings. And I'll take one off from its HP. Take HP minus 1. Okay. What else do I need to know? Oh, I'm going to need to update this last part. I'm going to go back to the default property. And I'll copy this part. Okay. Let's play it. And for our purposes, for our testing purposes, let's go ahead and speed this up to maybe every 1 second. Ah, I see what's happening here. It collided here, and it continually subtracted HP. we want it to stop right there. We want it to stop there, just at the top of it. So I go to toggle collide building. I go to the default property. Once it hits this position, gallery building, and the position of the building, then go ahead and stop things right away. Okay, I think that makes sense. I go to the onCheck property and do the same thing here. And go ahead and reset the buildings. Huh. It's still subtracting a lot. I need it to stop though. Let me check the position of this. I have an idea. I'm going to go into the gallery of new missiles. I'll insert a label that follows that missile. So go to the same starting position. Okay, let's give it some height. If the status is true, make it appear at the halfway point of the screen. Otherwise, start at the top. Okay. Fire some missiles and see where. Let's do that again. I think what we could do here to simplify things is these missiles can only go downward anyway. Let's set this gallery so that it starts right below the gallery of missiles, or the gallery of invaders. Okay. And I'll make its height screen height minus where this thing starts. In which case, I want this missile to travel start at 0, so I don't need this anymore. Start at where this gallery starts, and then add this height as it goes along. Copy this. So it's going to travel the height of this total gallery as it goes along. And then I'm going to need to adjust the collision of the building. Okay. If you start at the missiles building, or the missiles gallery, okay, if you start at the missiles gallery, and you add, start at the missiles gallery, and you add this amount. Is it in this location of the building? If it is, disable the missile. Okay. Let's try it again. Let's reset this so we have some hit points for those buildings. Still triggering multiple times. Let's check the on-check property of this. Okay, so I'm updating the missiles of the invader. I see the toggle going true. Let's see. Oh, let's take a break and see if you guys have questions. So, taking a look at the missiles from the invaders. I have the missile. Detect collision for missiles that hit buildings. Find out why a missile continues to damage a building. So that's the current issue right now. It's not stopping. Oh, I know exactly what it is. Okay, right here. I was referencing the other missiles. I need to look at the invaders' missiles. Okay, I think what we need to do now is give this some name. The missiles of the invader. Okay. And then I'll rename this other gallery of missiles the missiles of the hero. Save my progress, and that should work out. All right, when I play this, and I see a missile coming at these buildings, they should only take one off. That didn't work. Oh, I need to change it somewhere else. So I changed it in the on check. I need to change it I need to change this default property. Okay, so I go to onCheck. Just going to copy this whole thing. Okay, that should work out. I'll reset this for more HP. Now it's not hitting. Let's check the collision again. Okay, I see what I did. I didn't get the entire thing. Earlier, it was still referencing the content from the invaders gallery. Okay, so now it's set to building galleries, the missiles of the invaders, image of the building. Okay, let's see. There we go. It got hit once and only took off once. It got hit again. Boom. Boom. So this one got hit. It got hit. It took one off. Great. Holy moly, this is working. Okay. So let's check that one off our list. Detect collision that hits buildings. Okay, we found out why it continued to damage. All right, let's continue. I can get rid of this label now, this helper label. Get rid of this. Okay, let's increase the time that it takes for these the invaders to send a missile to every about 3,000 milliseconds. Okay. And let's randomly move this gallery of invaders. All right. First thing that we need to do, you see how the invaders only occupy this amount of space? That's why some of the missiles are coming out on this side. Let's make it so that this entire gallery is exactly the width of all of the invaders. So in the width property, the size of the invader is its maximum. I'm going to multiply that by 11 invaders. Looks like it's adding some additional width. do about 10% more width. Okay, that's good enough. And then I'll make its height just enough. So that's slider invader x times 5. Okay, I'm not going to worry about this error. Next, I'm going to keep the y property at 40, but this x property is going to change every few seconds. So I'll use the timer to figure out where it is at any given time. All right. Every seconds. Actually, let's keep it in the same one. I'll just keep it simple. Every 3 seconds, it'll fire a missile and move, or it'll move and fire a missile. Fire an enemy missile. Randomly move the invaders. Okay. So we'll just go ahead and set the property of where the invaders are. We'll base it on its current position. Set invader position to its current invader position. Okay. Now, we can either move it plus or minus 10. Let's do plus or minus 10. If I pick a random number and it's greater than half, we'll add 10. Make it -1, otherwise 1. And then we'll multiply that by 10. So I'm taking its current position, determining whether I'm subtracting 10 or adding 10. Okay. In the reset button that we have, let's set a random position. Set invader position. Make it so that the invader is somewhere in the middle of the screen. Screen 1 width. Get the midpoint minus gallery invaders dot width divided by 2. Okay. One more thing I need to do. Set the gallery of invaders so that it's X property. That thing. Okay, so right now it's in the middle of the screen. You'll see that it randomly moves there. Okay, so it's randomly moving. All right, let's make a bigger increment. And then for that matter, Let's change that increment. We'll go ahead and use another slider for this. We'll call it Invader Increment. 10 pixels is not very much. Let's go ahead and make it 25. I go back into the timer, the on timer end property. And instead of putting 10 here, put in the invader increment. So every 3 seconds, it will move about 25 pixels. Okay. All right, that's working. Okay. The basic parts of the game work. Let's see our checklist here. We could put in some visuals. We could put in some visuals just to show things working out. Save the game. Go to my browser. All right, I've picked up a few things here. Here's a picture. Here's a set of pictures that we can use. Go to Photoshop. Let's change this to RGB. Okay. Put in pictures. Okay, I'm going to copy each of these. Start with, this one's the one on the bottom. Okay. And I only want the white. Let's do that again. Oops. I'll mess that out. I'll stamp it. Okay, so I have one creature. Oh, I'll save it. This is 4, 5. Let's see how many pixels this is. Okay, I'm going to divide everything by 8. Nearest neighbor, so I keep the pixels. I'm going to increase it now. Actually, I'll save this. All this invaders. I'm going to increase it when I save it, when I export it. So when I export as PNG, no, I'll save it to the web. It gives me options to multiply it here. So this is a better location to multiply. Let's make it 96 pixels. Okay. We'll save it here. Folder called Invaders. This is Invader 1. Okay, going back to our pictures. Invader 2 is this guy. Copy it. Paste it. And I think it's probably easier to do the figuring out of the colors here. I'll select all the parts that are black. I'll remove it. Oops. I'm going to copy this layer. I have all my pictures in one. I'll export this. I need 6 pixels. This will be Invader 2. And just one more. This guy. Okay. Try it here. Oops. Start a new file. And the same steps. Small. Remove the black. Mask it out. Stamp it. And bring it over here. Okay. And I export this. And this will be Invader 3. I have my 3 invaders. Let's get some buildings. Let's go ahead and put it into the app, actually, just so that we have the gratification. Go to my gallery of invaders. I'll hide these extra things. I'll add those pictures. If I can remember where I put it. Let's see. Where did I stick them? I stuck them in 8-bit classroom/invaders. Let's try this again. There it is. Okay. In the image property, I'll use a switch. Switch this item.value. Okay, if the value is 10, make it Invader 1. If the value is 20, Invader 2. If it's 40, make it Invader 3. Did I forget something? Oh, the screen is white. Let's set a background fill of black. There's the invaders. Okay. That thing bugs me. Okay, let's save what we have so far. Let's get visuals for the other parts. I'll just search. Spaceship. And the building. Go ahead and copy this, bring it into Photoshop. Go into this. I'll do this as best as I can. Over here. This is, let's see. This is probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 times 2, 24. This is probably 24 pixels. There we go. There's 24 pixels. I'm going to remove the black parts. Mask them out. Okay, now that I shrunk it, let's make it big again. Let's get a multiple of 24. Let's do it by the height. 36. No, I want 72. Here. 44. Save this. And export it. Same thing for the ship. Okay, once we have these things set, the app is pretty much finished. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 13 pixels wide. Okay. Remove the black. Stamp it. And then make it big again. Let's make this bigger. Oh, we'll do it when we export. Save this for now. Invaders, ship. Oh. Save this to the web. Let's multiply this. Oh, 64 is good. Invaders, ship. I think we have the images that we need. Go back into the app, put in that media, and get rid of this one now. And we just change things. The hero sprite, that ship, and the building. Oh, I see what we're going to be using some switch cases here. That's for building later. Just get the basics now. Okay. And let's set fit. Change its height so it fits better. Okay, about that much is good. All right. Oh, missiles. Missiles. Oh my gosh. This is working. All right, let's hide some things just to make us clean. I go into the buildings. I turn these from visible to invisible. What else do I need to do? Let's make this white and smaller. Okay. This text input box, we want it to fill the entire screen. And then we want it to be invisible. Okay, so I'm going to make all of its colors invisible as well. Border color, the hover text color. Let me just search for it. The hover color. I don't see any of the text. Oh, and we need to change the hover fill. Border, hover fill. So now anywhere I click on the screen, I'm able to send this out. Okay, let's change that missile to white. All right, the missile. We'll need to change it for both of them. We're just going to set it so that originally I was going to have it as an image. That's fine. We'll just set it to white, as well as this image. We'll get rid of its image and just make it a rectangle. Okay, let's make that rectangle smaller, narrower. This is why it's nice to set the property here. That way you could just change it universally. Maybe, and we'll make it very skinny. There we go. And now that I'm thinking about it, I think I want the invaders to move more. So I go back into here. Maybe every 2 seconds, I fire a missile and move. there's a few kinks to work out. Other than that, the basic part of the game is working. So I'm pretty happy with that. Let me save this so I don't lose anything. All right, so I think I'm pleased for this weekend. I'll make this publicly available. You can play around with it, make it themed your way. Let me switch to hiding my screen here. Okay. And then, okay. So it looks like I got to the parts that I wanted to, just the basic parts of the game. But if you want to try building this stuff out yourself, just take a look at kind of what I was thinking about as I was going along, the conditions, the way I was filtering the missiles gallery to see how things lined up, figuring out the X and Y positions. That's pretty much kind of the meat and potatoes of this app. It's just that collision detection. Everything else is kind of like what you would normally do in other apps. All right, if you do have questions, you can reach me on Twitter. So I'm on there. I think that's where I shared this link to this cast. So you probably already have my Twitter handle. And if you want this a copy of this app, I'll stick it out there as well in a link so you can download it. So enjoy your weekend. Thanks for joining me on this webcast.